Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of James Bond Bitcoin Live, episode 0054, hashtag traders. And so today I have Brian with me. Say hello, Brian.
Hello, Brian.
Welcome back to the show. Today's, what is today? Wednesday. So you're on today with us. It will be an hour-long discussion of anything and everything that happened today. So I'll go over the meme real quick. And it's something I made yesterday. So I want to just tie something into Russia. So I might as well we'll bring a story into it. But the meme is "Welcome to Russia." And if you don't know who this person is, I'm sure you know who this person is, Brian.
Oh, absolutely. It's Edward Snowden.
Oh, it's Edward Snowden. I was going to say Eric Snowden, but I got the name wrong. But yes, Edward Edward Snowden, and he made his way to Russia, and that's why I titled the the title is also hashtag traitors, because some people view Edward Snowden as a traitor, but he looks very happy in Russia, and he's holding a sign there, and he's a I bet you didn't know, but he's a hashtag yes to X supporter.
Well, that makes sense. Of course, he supports bigger block size. I bet he supports Russian miner coin too.
Yes, he probably does. Edward Snowden has been elected by the Russian government to be uh, the welcoming committee for all Russian mining campaigns in Russia. And so, as you heard, Russia has been opening their country to probably, I think, China miners. Or they're trying to steal some China miners to have them mine out in by their nuclear power plants.
See, that's pretty interesting. I still am uncertain if it's a competition or a collusion between Russian bloc country or Soviet bloc countries.
Well, there's a lot of rumors floating around from China that basically miners may be under regulation or even a ban or even nationalization. Although uh, people are coming out and saying, no, that's a rumor, it's not true. But everything always seems to start out as a rumor in China, and then somehow it works its way to being true for some reason.
Sanctioned secrets move slowly.
Secrets move slowly. Sometimes I think like it's an open secret, and everyone starts talking about it openly, and then to make it more fun and complicated to see who really knows what's going on, who really doesn't. They also come out and they openly deny everything to the open secret.
Well, it's always a good way to find out where your leak is or who's dispensing information by just putting out a little fake story and seeing where it goes and who says it.
Very good. That's a good way to find a leak, I guess, or the guy who doesn't know what's really going on. And if you consider the leak the false information, the propagandist, then I guess that's how you find the propagandist.
Hmm. We're gonna have to delve into this further at some point.
Well, he's holding up a piece of paper there, and you know, a lot of people associate people who are like into computers or hacking or writing code to Bitcoin, and so the reason I picked Edward Snowden is a lot of people like may associate others to a movement, but they have nothing they have no involvement in the movement whatsoever. Like a lot of people associate, gosh, I forgot that guy's name, who was he took asylum in the UK, in the Ecuadorian embassy.
Julian Assange.
Yes, Julian Assange, and a lot of people associate him with Bitcoin because his website, I think, what's it called, WikiLeaks.
Correct.
Yeah, WikiLeaks uh, early on was going to accept Bitcoin, but apparently Satoshi Nakamoto made a plea to Julian Assange not to take it, but they're accepting it now, and WikiLeaks has been known to, you know, give out quote unquote information.
Well, they heeded Satoshi Nakamoto's plea initially, and they did not accept Bitcoin, and they did not get Bitcoin attached to WikiLeaks and have it into the same stigma that was being cast on WikiLeaks.
Right, that is correct. That is true. And so if you consider that, a part of, I guess, espionage and information and secrets and everything, it wouldn't be so far-fetched that a lot of people associate Edward Snowden to almost doing the same thing, and maybe somehow in Russia he's doing something with Bitcoin.
Well, sure. People associate, well, he's a very polarizing figure. And there are some people out there that associate him with freedom and transparency. And the people who also associate that with Bitcoin probably would automatically associate them together.
But have you heard of anything like Edward Snowden ever being involved in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency at all?
No, not that I could think of.
Well, yeah, same here. But I think there's a lot of people who probably associate him with cryptocurrency, just because of the other associations he may have at the time frame of when everything else happened here. But of course, this is a meme, a joke, of course. But if anybody would become, I guess, a figure to welcome in, any miners into Russia, I think Edward Snowden would be perfect. And he's holding up a little QR code, and he's got a little secret there. And if anybody scans that QR code, it'll take you to a secret place.
That almost sounds a little ominous, James. I mean, is he literally welcoming us to Russia? Do we really want to scan that QR code and follow the hole down which it leads?
Yes, you do.
Okay, all right.
I
will do then.
It's a welcome. He's part of the welcoming committee for all the and also for any traders. By the way, if you're a trader, you can come to Russia and trade in Russia. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Russia has become like the #1 peer-to-peer economy out of all the countries.
Oh, they still use the ruble, right?
I believe they still use the ruble, yes.
All right. So how long have they held this top spot, or when did they take over?
Well, let me see here. I think they've taken over this spot for I would say almost a year and a half. So in a year and a half, they became #1 in Bitcoin volume, according to local Bitcoins. That title used to be the US dollar. Now it's the ruble. So ruble is #1. And I'm checking the list right now, and let me see how many Bitcoins. Let me see here. 12,571 Bitcoins on a 30-day average. So about a month. That's how many Bitcoins they do, volume in rubles. After that, it's the US dollar, and they've dropped down quite a bit. That's 8,584 Bitcoins per month, about 30 days. And So they've dramatically increased their volume. After that, let me see what is that? Euro. Euro has always been a third place, and they do 2,200 roughly. And after that is Australia. Australia does about 1,600. And then I don't know what VEF is. I don't know what country that is, but I don't see anything here for yuan. I see Hong Kong dollars, which is about 542 bitcoins every 30 days, roughly a month. But I don't see anything here for Chinese money, for the yuan, that on local bitcoins. And I think you had a story about that.
I read a story. I think it was Cointelegraph from within the last few days that said China's peer-to-peer trade market is on the rise sharply. So I guess if they have a low volume to begin with, a doubling of a low volume, which still is a low volume, is a sharp increase, but not in the overall scheme of things.
Yeah, they don't even show up on the 30-day average that I can see. And so if anything, they may have done like, let me see what the lowest amount is. The lowest amount that I could see on this list here. They probably do something. You probably have to go to local bitcoins. I'm not using local bitcoins. I'm using bitcoincharts.com, and I'm using whatever feed they're getting in. Let me see the lowest amount that I see. I don't even see any Chinese money whatsoever, and I'm trying to look for it. ILS. I don't know what country that is. But let me see. Let's compare it to Hong Kong dollars. That's probably the closest thing that I can get to Chinese money. Okay, Hong Kong dollars, 542 bitcoins. So if Chinese money did less than that, I mean, I can't imagine if they gone from 200 to 300 bitcoins in that amount of time. That's really not a lot.
No, it's not. And the ILS is actually the Israeli new shekel. It's about 28 cents on the dollar.
I've never heard of that. New Israeli new shekel.
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 Yeah.
So where about is that? Is that used? Is that a Israeli money?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Well, what's according to local bitcoins, their average is 2.2 bitcoins in 30 days. So if the Chinese yuan is not even here that I can see, then they're doing less than that. Maybe they've done like 0.1 Bitcoin to like a whole Bitcoin in the last 30 days or so. But maybe this information is wrong.
Maybe. Maybe that story is wrong. Maybe it came out within the last few days to try to give people hope in a market that was going down, in a place that was causing anxiety about the market.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the headlines that you heard. So one was the Chinese local Bitcoins market increasing, and I've heard that. That's not the first time I've heard that story. I've heard that story when they temporarily put a withdrawal halt on the Chinese exchanges, like around April, around May and April. They did. The government put a halt on any withdrawals. You could withdraw fiat, but you couldn't withdraw any Bitcoin whatsoever. And around that same time, the news story came out where local Bitcoins, peer-to-peer trading increases, 200% or some weird nonsense, you know. And there might be some truth to it, because when I do look on local Bitcoin's forum, there's Chinese characters in the forums, but I don't know if they're really Chinese. If anything, I think they're probably Americans or foreign nationals who maybe trying to solicit business, or maybe some Chinese nationals trying to solicit business outside of China, but I don't think they're doing anything in China.
That's very possible. When we had decided to discuss Russia today, I what they were doing, and it looks like their lower parliament house is trying to develop the laws and regulations that they're going to try to enact for blockchain and cryptocurrency, which is very interesting. I'm also thinking about earlier you said that their local trading takeover of the number one spot started a year and a half ago, which coincides with what was going on there at that time, which was the government discussing a ban on Bitcoin, which makes sense because if they're going to ban it and you think exchanges are going away or they are going away, then your alternative is peer-to-peer market.
Well, originally, I even though I did this meme yesterday, I did catch a news article. Their headline was "Russia legalizes Bitcoin," but unfortunately, that information was like a year old. It was like in December when the original article, in which this other news article took the information from, they basically hijacked someone's news article. And that was like December of 2016, which was last year already. And so Russia's made a big 180 when I remember when they first made their announcement. They literally said that any money surrogate was illegal, and they were going to put people in jail for 7 years. And they were talking about that for a long time. They put it into their I don't know what their parliament, their Duma, whatever, and it never became law. But they were serious about that. They just did not want cryptocurrencies. But at the same time, what I was hearing from people on Twitter who are Russian in Russia was that they were using Bitcoin just fine. They weren't threatened. They weren't worried whatsoever. And so, news articles that come out at certain time intervals, I think, people should be pretty wary about it, because I think they're misleading. And unless you can actually verify those sources, they may be false entirely.
Well, at this point in the cryptocurrency sphere, we don't know who's putting out real news and who isn't, unfortunately, because there's so much hype for so many different topics coming from what should be, unbiased sources.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Even the news articles, or cryptocurrency news articles, quote unquote, and mainstream articles, they seem to be all biased, and it's really hard to tell these days who you can really trust. It's almost like you have to go to social media, but even some social medias are biased. But if you look at overall, if you look at the overall social media, I think there's some truth and validity in what's coming out. So again, this is something that I see more and more often, is the best source of information is actually coming from the people who are there on the ground, and usually a social media is a good way to do it if you can access that information. The hard part is, parts of Russia, parts of China, they have a firewall, and you're not able to access, their social media that they have allowed. So Brian, do you want to move on to the price?
I'm sorry, I was muted.
Oh, no problem. Go ahead.
um, well, that's what a country does to its people when they want to control, right? I mean, look at North Korea. They do the same thing with all forms of communication. And in the modern technological world, if you want to keep people down or keep them thinking a certain way, the only way to do that is to control all forms of communications. And sounds like they're implementing their plans very well.
What in North Korea?
North Korea, China, they
Okay.
control and dominate everything.
Yeah, I wonder what's really going on. I'm sure there definitely is halting of exchanges going on because we hear directly from Bobby Lee, who owns Bitcoin, uh, BTCC China or Bitcoin China, and so there's some confirmation of what's going on. I definitely for sure ICOs are are banned for now. But I also hear other reports that the co-founder of Neo apparently putting out his own tweet, which is interesting because if Twitter is banned in China and YouTube is banned in China, Google's banned in China, this guy's on Twitter, tweeting stuff out to the rest of the world. How do we know his tweets are for real? Like he's tweeting out that he's talking to the government, and the sentiment is that Neo is going to be okay. Neo is going to be all right. And then the price of Neo has jumped up incredibly.
He he's just very charismatic. I guess people listen to him and believe and feel good about it.
I guess so. Out of all the securities out there, crypto securities out there that are being banned, his crypto security is going to be all right. He's got an inside job over there with the Chinese government, I guess is what he's saying. So I've
Maybe
noticed Neo's gone up tremendously, and people are pumping that thing back up again. So good for them if they held on to their Neo, which probably most of them didn't.
you know, maybe he just has a group of investors who went ahead and bought some more while it was down in order to inflate the price so they could start pulling in the greater fools.
Probably. So let's talk about the price of Bitcoin or any other coin that you want to talk about. But what do you think about this nice recovery? Would you call it a recovery, or are you still cautious, Brian?
Well, I'm always cautiously optimistic. You know, I have a case used for the price going up and down, right? I have a horse in both races, and I don't like to prognosticate, so I'm not for sure where it's going. But I do like that the bottom didn't fall out on it.
Yes, I think everyone definitely likes the bottom didn't fall on it. Even though I'm still not too optimistic because there's such a huge discrepancy in the range in price, and also uh, you know I've got to see the price hit over $5,000 before I can say, okay, we're good to go. The market's looking good. The longer this price moves up and down, the more challenging it's going to be. So this past week, I've seen a lot of people, I've seen a lot of articles, a lot of media come out, in my opinion, trying to ease the traders, ease the minds of investors. And that's another sign I look for if people are overly, how can I say this? Overly, I guess, I don't know how to say this, but if they're overly trying to make you feel better, make you feel like, have faith in this, believe in it. The technology is coming out. It's a little worrisome, but I do appreciate the price going up because I guess you could say, I always say this, not that I really did make $10,000 or not, but every time the price goes up, I always tell everyone, hey, I made $10,000 today. What good way to make other people feel good that they held onto their Bitcoins than you telling everybody, hey, I made $10,000 holding onto my Bitcoin. So if people can make a couple $1,000s trading, why can't I make $10,000, right? It's a
Right.
good headline, you know.
Honestly, I don't know what the hubbub's really about. I mean, at this point, um, it's only gone up like 7% in the last 7 days. There's lots of things that have gone up lots more in fiat and in Bitcoin value. I still have my Doge. Doge has gone so far down in price, and nobody talks about it. Well, except for bite-sized Bitcoin, right? He always talks about Doge,
Well, he doesn't
but
even
it's
say
gone
that
up.
anymore at the end.
I know, right? And you know what? He was here in New York, and I wasn't even paying attention. I could have gone and met up and hung out at his Doge pub crawl. But it's gone up 35% in 7 days. Yep,
Wow, that's nice.
a whole bunch of things have gone up. So I'm not impressed with a 7% increase. It made it back to 4,100. It was 4,100 back in the beginning of August, middle of August. I mean, we haven't gone anywhere. And people see this as it going up. And you don't see it as going anywhere because we haven't even returned to our previous all-time high or even close.
Yeah, it's actually gone up to 4,200 on Bitstamp. I've actually seen it, which is kind of good. It's above its 30-day average. The 30-day average on Bitstamp is $4,001.85. And so if you compare the 30-day average, which is above, it's only above 4.4% above its 30-day average right now. So considering that, has it really performed? Not really, but it's performed well if you compare it to if you bought at 3,000. So people who are overly optimistic about this price right now, don't get too overly optimistic. Is what I would say. The best time to be optimistic about the price is when it goes back up to 5,000. That's the best time to be optimistic because then that's going to break the all-time high, which was a little bit shy of 5,000. And if it can break above 5,000, then we're back on the bull market, and then we can start celebrating and start buying Lambos and $1 million homes with your Bitcoin. But until then, this is neither here or there. It's the high was 5,000, the recent low was 3,000. We're at 4,200. It's technically still a dead cat bounce in my opinion. But if anybody out there who's overly confident and would like, who thinks they're in a bull market or we're returning back into a bull market, I would say go ahead and put your money into Bitcoin because that would help me out greatly.
And anyone who is interested in the latest freestyle, including Lambos and hoes from my Bitcoin pros, uh, contact me. I represent Mr. Bond and all of his artistic endeavors, including his freestyle poetry performances.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. And before you contact him, remember to send 0.1 Bitcoin to Brian before he'll even talk to you. So that's really important right now.
Um, I will accept 0.1 Bitcoin from anyone how to send it to him. Figure out how to send it to me. Attention to the treasure hunts.
Yeah, Brian. Well, if you want to contact, I didn't put your email. I'll put your email in the notes section, Brian. I forgot to. I've been forgetting to do that, but I'll go ahead and do that. And then email Brian. He'll give you an address, and then we'll start talking. But until then, just just come back and watch the channel for now. Let's go on to the Coinomi issue. And I know I use Coinomi and you use Coinomi. I actually like it for a multi-currency wallet, but it seems that they've had some issues. And I think that link to the GitHub where they talk about the issue, a privacy issue, maybe even a security issue, is in the notes section. No, it's not. I'll put it in the notes section after the show. But did you have a chance to see that, or go to the GitHub and see the comments?
I did. I saw the initial posts and a lot of the follow-up comments, and but it looks like the concern that was raised technically is accurate. Apparently, when you bring your Coinomi wallet on to the network or put it onto the internet, um, it broadcasts. Now, okay, I'm gonna have to back up a second to explain this fully. When you have a higher deterministic wallet like Coinomi, and you have a master seed phrase that restores your wallet, there are literally hundreds of pairs, public and private keys that are associated with that master seed phrase. And normally you don't see them except for like if you allow it to make a new address per transaction. It doesn't make that when you request it. Those actually exist. They're predetermined. There are tools out there that allow you to see all of your extrapolated. But what happens is when you bring your Coinomi online, it broadcasts in plain text all of the public keys from your wallet, which, there's definitely a privacy matter. I'm uncertain if it actually poses a true security risk or not. I mean, I know lots of people's wallet public addresses, but I've never been able to get into those wallets unless I've been given a private key, and I don't think anybody else has either.
Yeah, as far as a security threat, from when I was reading the thread, apparently you can if you know the address that it's going to be sent to next, they could apparently, and I don't know how, to do this, but apparently they can make it seem like you never sent any Bitcoin to a person. Like if you and me were sending Bitcoins to each other, and I can exploit that, I can make it seem like that your transaction never went through, but in reality it did. I can make it appear that it never did, even though if you checked on the blockchain on any of the block explorers, it can make it seem like nothing ever happened. And so, but in reality you did. And I think it has to do something with the nodes, where the nodes don't broadcast that information. And so it doesn't seem like anything has happened. So in that case, yeah, you could, but you would have to be a pretty malicious person to commit a man-in-the-middle attack, and you would have to select your target to do that. So it could be possible. It probably is. Man-in-the-middle attacks with Bitcoin transaction has been known, but I've never have been a victim of it, or I've never heard or seen any other reports of it other than theoretical. And as far as the privacy, it might be a privacy issue, but as far as a security issue, I mean, you still have your private keys. There's no way to take your Bitcoin from you. And considering the blockchain is already pretty transparent, um, other than the fact that, you know, when you transact, it will go to a new address on those HD wallets. The only difference is the way apparently you can see all the wallets, but you'll be looking at empty wallets for the most part. So other than that, I don't see an issue for me, because I don't use my Coinomi wallet in that way. I use it for treasure hunts and giveaways and stuff like that, and receiving you know, altcoins and for experimentation. That's about it. All the other wallets that I use for my trading and transactions come from my paper wallets, and recently I've been using my Cilium wallet because they offer a lower fee. Right now, the reason I like Coinomi, because during the time when all the transaction fees were very high, like over $1 or $2 or $3 sometimes, I was using Coinomi because their default setting was, you know, about 20 cents. And, you know, that's not too bad because I was just sending different wallets for the giveaway. But now 20 cents is higher because with my Cilium wallet, I can use 9 cents and I could do more. Hopefully I could do more giveaways.
Yeah, I'm all for lower fees if that means there's more left over for the booty.
Yes, more booties. Like if you think about it, like if it costs $1, I mean, it used to cost like literally $1. Like you put it on the low priority, it used to cost $1 to do a transaction. Well, now it costs me about 9 cents on my Cilium. I'm sure there's other wallets that I can use. I can get it down lower than that, but I think I have to use a full node wallet to do that, and I'm not sure if I'm willing to do that because you know, it takes up a lot of memory. But as far as mobile wallets, you know, I prefer my Cilium because I can spend from the cold storage. It doesn't sweep the entire amount. That's about 10 cents. So I can do 10 more transactions versus, well, the one transaction that it used to cost. So yeah, more money to the people who are participating in the treasure hunts.
I'll never complain about that. But I do think it's important that people understand how fees work and realize that they can change the fees, and that if they're willing to wait a while, they can have inexpensive Bitcoin transactions.
Yeah, that is true. Unless, you know, unless you're doing something that's time sensitive, like if you buy online from major internet providers um, that accept Bitcoin as payment. I think they use BitPay or Coinbase. You have like a 15-minute window to make your transactions, and depending whether they want a zero or a unconfirmed transaction, or if they accept one confirmation, it depends. Each one's different. I usually want to set a higher fee so it goes through really fast, and that way you can get your order through. Or another, what I usually use higher fees for is when I trade peer to peer. People who you know, trade with me and I send them Bitcoins, I usually use high priority because, you know, they definitely have paid for those Bitcoins, and people appreciate getting them as soon as possible so they could use it for whatever they want to use it for. So that's what I use a higher fee for. Other than that, if I'm just transferring Bitcoins to one wallet to another wallet, which is my own wallet, there's no rush. There's no hurry. So why would I want to waste more money on minor fees, on transaction fees, when I know it's me? You know, there's no rush. You know, my Bitcoins aren't going anywhere. They're always online. So save yourself, you know, some money. I know it sounds petty over $1. petty to save a dollar, but if you do many transactions over a lifetime, and if you consider the fact that Bitcoin has, in 1 year, basically have gone from $1,000 to an all-time high of $5,000, it makes a difference.
Yeah, every Satoshi counts. If we all believe that Bitcoin's going to be around forever and that it's eventually going to go way up, then you should be worried about every Satoshi you can get your hands on right now and forever, and hold on to them as much as possible.
Right. So another thing I want to talk about is, of course, hashtag yes2x. I'm seeing more and more news come out and more people, at least on social media, discussing the potential hard fork in November. So I think people are really digging in now. I don't know if you noticed anything on social media or news regarding the potential hard fork in November.
In the past few weeks, I've seen more usage of hashtag no2x and some articles discussing replay protection, where I had not seen any discussion about that before.
Interesting. Well, it'll be interesting
Now,
to see. Yeah, go ahead.
I posit this of the experiment as we get closer to a potential fork and discussion about it on both sides.
Yeah, I recently did. Well, yesterday I did something on Vinny Lingham, and I've always felt he's kind of been wishy-washy ever since he announced. He was on a live stream on Adam Meister's show, in which he openly discussed how the hard fork was going to come. This is back when Bitmain was always threatening a hard fork before Bitcoin Cash, and it seemed like he had inside information that he was trying to disseminate on Adam's show, because at the time Adam was very, very popular at that time, and it seemed like he was trying to manipulate the audience into thinking that to dump their coin because the hard fork was going to come. And of course, that's when he also made the announcement where he sold 90% of his holdings. Now, I don't know how true those email leaks are that I've seen, but this has always kind of been known that, SegWit 2x has been not about increasing the block size, because Bitcoin Cash is around with 8 megabytes. SegWit is around with a potential 4 megabytes. Why would you need another hard fork or a split, and where you have another potential 8 megabytes? So you got 3 chains that have increased block sizes. The narrative is this fork is really about changing development teams. What are your thoughts on that, Brian?
Well, your observations, your whereases are accurate. There are alternatives for bigger block sizes, and they're not being used. So they're either not needed or they weren't wanted to begin with by the general public. So I've always maintained it's been a false narrative that we need bigger block sizes to begin with. But we have SegWit, bigger block size. Why don't they just use that? I don't know.
Well,
It seems the whole agreement from New York seems to be unraveling.
yeah, there was another person who seemed to have uh, dropped out of the agreement, Voltero. Do you know anything about that company?
Say that name again. I'm
Vault.
sorry.
It's Voltero.
Yeah, I've heard some about it in regard to this. but I can't recall what it is at the moment.
It's an interesting company. It's one of those gold companies. You give us Bitcoin and we'll hold your gold for you, or you sell your gold and we'll give you Bitcoin. Um,
Yes, yes,
it's
yes.
it's one of those companies, but Volterra is a little different in that they actually they'll actually may actually hold real gold, and they'll let you even sell your gold and get back Bitcoin. So it's kind of like a trading company. They offer the services and everything. They've been around for a while. Uh, it doesn't make my personal opinion, it doesn't make sense to purchase gold with your Bitcoin, since your Bitcoin, in my opinion, is just my opinion. All right, I don't own that much gold. I own like 2 or 3 gold medals, uh, and they're I'm not even sure if they're really gold, but they look like gold medals from the Olympics, and I think that's what they're supposed to be. And I'm not even sure if they're really gold, but supposedly they are. I got some silver ones and bronze ones. They're just collectible items. I didn't participate in the Olympics and win them.
I was about
But
to say, what were you in the was it the biathlon? You were skiing and shooting. Was that it?
yeah, yeah. No, no, they're just collectibles. You just buy them. They're I don't know what Olympics, but I think my mom bought them for me. And then she just recently gave them to me, and I was like, yeah, these were mine, right? I mean, you bought them for me. Why are you giving them to me? And she says, here, I'll give it to you, like as a gift. I'm like, you already gave it to me as a gift, Mom. What's the deal? You know, she was double dipping. But that's the only thing I have. Other than that, I don't have bars of gold or what wafers of gold or anything like that. But in my opinion, and maybe you could talk a little about it, because I know you have silver and you trade silver and everything, so you could probably chime in on the other spectrum. But I just see Bitcoin more valuable and more usable, because it's not, ironically, it's not physical, so I don't have to worry about it. And the security aspect of it is pretty easy, because again, it's not physical, and it's just private keys, which I have everywhere actually hidden, and I only know where they are. And so protecting them is a lot easier, again, because they're not physical, and they're more, I would say, have utility, because I know I can use them to buy stuff. I can take them across borders, which I have. I've taken them across Canada, which isn't too hard, because it's Canada. But you can get on a plane, and I have these treasure hunts all over the place. Well, if I can do that with you guys, why can't I do that with myself? Have little hidden treasures on the internet. Nobody knows it's there except me, and then I can access them. I can have access to them all over the world. And so, in that sense, and plus I trade peer to peer and I get cash for them. But maybe you could chime in on your perspective.
Well, I really in regard to me having silver, I really don't have very much. I didn't have much to begin with, and I took most of it and I traded it peer to peer to obtain Bitcoin, which is much more potable and spendable on websites and stuff, just like you said. Um, if if and only if there comes a time where Bitcoin is not usable. And again, I always say if you believe in Bitcoin, then you believe that civil society is going to continue and there aren't going to be any huge natural disasters or anything that knocks out global communications, right? And if you believe in that, then you don't have to worry about having silver and gold for those situations. But since we can't see the future, it's good to hedge your bets, both physically and virtually, that you'll have something when fiat is not able to do it for us.
Right, but what's your stance on metals and precious metals like that? It's the you know there's a lot of people who are I think who are into gold that have come into Bitcoin, and maybe they've gone back to gold with the recent price dip. Um, are these people like you know what I'm wondering is how are they playing this move? Because I think a lot of the price movement may be related to these new set of people who are essentially gold bugs or silver bugs.
Well, on some of the different trading places online that are for the silver bugs, I'd say over the past year, I've seen more and more of the traders accepting both Ethereum and Bitcoin for their silver and vice versa. And I don't know, because see, I was in the silver community before I came over to Bitcoin. And so this is one of the places I'd heard about Bitcoin before I got there. So I'm not for sure how long that had been going on. And with silver, it's been relatively down for quite a while. So I don't know if people are actually leveraging, because you have different type of people who are in the silver market. You know, you have your numismatic people who are into the silver and gold for the collectible values, not so much the silver content. Like then you have people who are into it just for the content. They don't care if it's a coin that has any sort of historical or numismatic value. They just want to know it's 31.1 grams of 0.999 pure silver. And those type of people are normally ones who are prepping. And it would make sense that those particular crossover folks would hold. Those people are holdall types. They don't do trading. And I don't know a lot of people that leverage their silver, so to speak, physically. Um, that's more of a paper market thing. So anybody that uses some of their silver to get into Bitcoin will probably stay into Bitcoin rather than going back.
Okay, you see it like as a diversification.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. So they never leave; they just keep adding to their portfolio.
correct. I don't
Okay,
think anyone ever, when you get a bug for something, I don't think you ever leave it, whatever it is. You might slow down, but I don't know if you ever leave.
okay. That's a good point. Well, I've never gotten the bug for gold or silver. Um, but you know, I don't. I never tried to. But it's just my opinion. It just doesn't make sense because of the portability issue and the use issue as well. Because if I wanted to use my silver, even at a peer to peer level, I would have to find someone and do a cash transaction. That's probably the only similarity between Bitcoin and what I do. And if I was ever to be in a precious metal market, other than that, you would have to go to a silver or gold dealer in which they have a premium they charge, or they charge a premium on you, and you know they charge you, or they buy from you at a lower price, so to speak. Um, is that the normal thing to
Well,
do?
most shops that buy silver will buy it from you at spot, and then they sell at some set price over spot at all times.
Okay, okay. And how diverse is that market? I mean, is there a peer to peer silver or precious metal market, like you can interact directly between two people without the dealer or middleman?
There are some communities that exist online, but not like Bitcoin, real peer to peer like that. But there are also lots of silver shows and swap meets and all that kind of stuff where you can go and meet people. So it does have some sort of social structure to it.
Okay, that's
But
interesting.
no, yeah, nothing like Bitcoin.
Yeah, but
Bitcoin seems to be a little different.
yeah, you can't have $100,000, in your wallet.
Yeah,
If you can't have like 1 ton of silver on you, walking around at the flea market. So it's hard to.
right.
That's the issue of portability. You have to like negotiate a deal beforehand and then meet someone and you know. Anyways, that's interesting. I just ask you because you're into that market and. I have no idea about that market. The only similarities is maybe the peer-to-peer aspect, and for me, Bitcoin's just a lot easier. I don't even have to. Sometimes I don't even have to leave my computer or my house, to do a trade. So that's the other nice thing. Anyways, do you have any? Do you want to talk about anything, or do you have anything else? Closing statements. We're probably almost about to wrap it up. It's about an hour.
No, that's about it. I'd say one thing about silver is its price, and so when you put some money into it, you're not as afraid to sell it, right? You're not afraid to sell your 2 or 3 ounces that you bought because it might double in price tomorrow. So that's a little different than Bitcoin as well.
So say that again. Is you said the price was
There's,
stable?
yeah, it's not very volatile.
Okay.
It's not the same as Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, you could sell your Bitcoin and tomorrow it could go up 25%. That's not going to happen with silver.
I hear you. Yeah. Yes. And also
So,
might even
like,
go down 25% too one day. So
it, sure, silver's not going to do that. Um, and it's the other reason I really don't have any silver now either. Between getting some Bitcoin and needing fiat, um, it works out okay because at some point I can always buy back into silver, probably pretty darn close to where I got in at before I needed cash.
okay, makes sense. So silver is probably more stable. Although it did peak up to I think $50. I think almost 5 or 6 years ago. But
During some real paranoid times, things were being super hyped, and you know the market's manipulated too, right?
that's what I hear. Like how is it manipulated?
Well, the silver is done on a paper market, electronically and futures and things like that. And so there are people that have large holdings, just like we speculate that happens with Bitcoin. Comes along and sells 200 tons of silver, paper silver on the market, which drives the price down whenever they feel like it. The price is set only by like a few companies, a few desks at those companies, and they have been for a long time. And there are all kinds of theories about that too, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole tonight.
That's
We could
another
go
rabbit
down later, apparently.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I guess we'll wrap this show up. And uh, thank you for everyone in the chat for coming in and participating and watching. Feel free to also scan that QR code uh, and participate in a nice treasure hunt. And if you've been watching this channel, you should know how to get to it. Although it is not that easy. You have to do some work to do it. But I think it's a good exercise on how to use paper wallets, how to decode them, how to get the private keys, how to get the addresses, how to just stuff that I think every Bitcoiner should know how to do because I think there's a lot of reliance on hardware wallets. And the problem with reliance on hardware wallets is you become very complacent and you become very dependent on these hardware wallets. And if for some reason they all malfunction, they break, or you just can't have access to it, eventually you have to access your seed code, which is again on paper. And then there's different uh, wallet generators and wallet decoders in which you can generate your seeds. And this is an exercise in doing that. And so if it's too hard, forgive me. But again, I did put some Bitcoins in there to make it fun and worthwhile. But I think it's for your benefit to learn how to do these things because you never know. And you actually might even learn something. Anyways, this concludes this episode. Feel free to like, dislike, leave a comment after the live stream. And until, let me see, or even do a video response. Until next time, everyone, stay tuned. Bye.